Hello and welcome to the mid-year check-in tag. I have no idea how we're already more than halfway through the year, but somehow we are, and I don't like that. But it does mean that we get to talk about all of the awesome books that we've read so far this year, so let's get into the questions. The first question is the best book that I've read so far this year, and that one has to go to The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I adored this book so much. Everybody was right. I finally read it and I fell in love with it. This is such a weird book that I really have no idea how to explain, but I was like one of the last people on this planet to read it, and I'm so glad that I finally did. It was truly phenomenal. I've also read The Night Circus a couple years ago, and like between those two books I will now pick up literally anything that this author ever writes for the rest of my days. Question 2 is the best sequel that I've read so far, and shocking no one, that one's going to Mislaid in Parts Half Known by McGuire, which first of all, fantastic title. I love that. This is the, I think, 9th book in the Wayward Children series. This is my favorite series in the entire world. Every year I look forward to this release and it never disappoints. I also reread the entire series at the start of the year in prep for the next book, and that was a great way to start the year off, so I loved doing that. I'll probably do it again next year as well. This series is about kids who find a portal door to a different world, and that world is perfectly suited for them. It's their home, it's where they find themselves, and for some reason they're forced to come back to our world and they're having a hard time coping, so their parents enroll them in this school for children who have gone to these doors. I love any portal fantasy, it's my favorite thing ever, but especially the series just means the world to me. I love them, and this was a fantastic installment in it. It wasn't my favorite book in this series as a whole, because like I was expecting to go to like this really cool dino land, and like we did, we just weren't there for very long, so I would have loved to have been in the dinosaur world a lot longer than we actually were, but other than that I still adored this book, and it's definitely my favorite sequel of the year so far. Question 3 is new releases that I haven't read yet but I want to, and the answer is so many. One of them that comes to mind is So Let Them Burn by Kamilah. I've put this on my TBR so many times this year and I haven't gotten around to it. I even went out and bought it like I think the first week that it was released. I was so hyped for it and I haven't gotten to it yet, and I'm so mad about that. It is on my TBR for July though, so hopefully I will get to it finally. And then some other ones that I haven't gotten to yet, I wrote down The Principle of Moments, Faebound, Into the Sunken City, An Education in Malice, and Evocation by ST Gibson. I love that author. They've had 2 releases this year and I haven't picked up either of them. Like, what is wrong with me? And again, author I love, Otherworldly by FT Lukens. I adore this author and I haven't picked this up yet. And then Dragonfruit looks so good. I can't think of the author's name right now or like the plot in general, but that cover is so gorgeous and I want to read it just for the cover basically. And same thing with Road to Ruin. That one's been comped to Pacific Rim meets Mad Max, and that just sounds like a combination of things that I need in my life and I haven't gotten to yet and I'm very mad about it. Question 4 is most anticipated releases for the rest of the year, and again I have a bunch. So The Dead Cattails Assassin by PJ Clark sounds phenomenal. A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. Again, I love T. Kingfisher. Celestial Monsters, the sequel to The Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. So excited for that one. I can't wait for it. I am going to be rereading the first book before reading the second one though. It's been a long time since I read that book, so I would definitely forget some details. The City in Glass by Nghi sounds really good. And then I Am the Dark That Answers When You Call. I can't wait. The first book was one of the best things that I read last year. It was so fucking good, and the sequel I think is going to be even better. Question 5 is my biggest disappointment, and sadly it's Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall. I talked about it recently in a vlog, but like I really didn't like this book at all. It was not good. The plot was weak, the characters were bland, but like most importantly the romance was really uncomfortable. It didn't feel very consensual to me. It was really not it. I was very let down by it. Question 6 is the biggest surprise, and that one has to go to You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Jikiemi-Pearson, which also has a phenomenal title. I love that title. This one was surprising because it's not my usual genre. I do read romance once in a while, but it's not usually like that impactful for me. But this one just really hit home. The way that grief was handled in it was incredible. I sobbed my entire way through this book. It was such a good book. I knew that I would like it because I like this author, but I didn't think that I would like it as much as I did. I gave it 5 stars. I did think about putting it in for the best book of the year, but Starless had to take that one. But it was very very close. Question 7 is new favorite author, and this one has to go to Ashley Poston. I've read a bunch of her books now, but this year solidified her as being like a new favorite author. I recently read The 7-Year Slip and it was so good. It was so good. So I've read that one from her. I've read the Heart of Iron duology, and I've read Among the Beasts and Briars, and I think I've read another one, but I can't think of what it is. I'm not sure. Either way, I've read at least 4 of her books now, and they've all been fantastic. So she's definitely a new favorite of mine. Question 8 is newest fictional crush. I don't really get book crushes anymore, so I'm going to go with my newest favorite couple, and that's definitely the couple in Arrival Most Vile. They had me like squealing and kicking my feet the entire time. I had such a good time with that book. It was so much fun. It was just pure joy. I loved it. And the couple in there just went from this like rivalry where they were like so petty and doing the most with each other in terms of like trying to sabotage each other's businesses. It was hilarious. And then just the gradual friendship and like learning to trust each other into an eventual romance. It was just so beautiful and I loved it. Question 9 is newest favorite character, and that one has to go to Ness from the City of Nightmares duology by Rebecca Schaefer, I think is the author. This duology took me by surprise, honestly. I figured that I would like it, but I didn't think that I would like it as much as I did. I read both books back to back. I couldn't stop thinking about them. They were so good, and I loved this character because like she's the main character, but she's an absolute disaster of a human, like complete coward. This series takes place in a very like Gotham City feeling place where your nightmares can like literally manifest into monsters, and the main character works for a company that goes and takes care of monsters, but she's an absolute coward. She only works there because they provide free housing and food, and she's broke otherwise, just trying to get by and just survive. But she's terrified of monsters and like literally abandons her best friend to face a monster by herself and jumps out the window to escape. Like she's such a coward. It's hilarious. Her growth throughout the entire book was so great to watch. She never stops being a coward, but she learned how to like deal with it better. And I just thought it was so refreshing to have a character like that where the main character wasn't really the hero. Everybody else was constantly trying to save her and she was just running away as fast as she could. I thought that was fantastic and not something that I'd really seen before, so it was very nice to have a change in pace. Number 10 is a book that made me cry, and again, 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I bawled my way through that book. Similar to You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, grief was handled beautifully in this book. It felt so tangible, and the author does mention that she lost somebody very close to her while she was writing this book, and she channeled her own grief into this book, and you could really feel that. It was gorgeous. I cried so hard throughout this book. I couldn't stop, and yeah, I've been thinking about it ever since. It was just such a fantastic book. I loved it so much. Number 11 is a book that made me happy, and this one has to go to The River of Teeth duology by Sarah Gailey. This was just such a weird, quirky little novella duology, and I loved it. It's an alternate history western kind of thing, but instead of riding horses, they ride hippos, which apparently was like an actual possibility in history. Like they were considering domesticating hippos at one point, but that never happened obviously, so this duology just like explores what that would have looked like, and it was so delightful and weird and quirky, and I loved it. It was very queer as well, and just like everything that I loved in a tiny little wonderful package. I loved this duology. It was a great mystery and yeah, just a wacky fun time. Number 12 is the most beautiful book that I bought this year, and that has to go to Denison Avenue by Christina Wong. This one is a book about Toronto. This book follows a Chinese Canadian woman who has recently lost her husband, and she's living in Chinatown in Kensington Market in Toronto, and it's just about her kind of walking around the city and trying to process the loss of her husband and feeling lonely and witnessing this neighborhood that she loves so much being gentrified. This isn't normally the genre that I would go for like at all, but the reason why I picked it up and why it's the most beautiful book that I bought this year, because like the first half of the book is just like a regular book, right? But then when you actually turn it upside down like this and you open it here, it's all these beautiful illustrations of Chinatown and Kensington Market, which is like my favorite area in Toronto. It's such a beautiful neighborhood that is really heavily undergoing gentrification right now. The people who live there have been fighting tooth and nail to save their neighborhood for years, and this just feels like a beautiful love letter to that area and also documents like how it is right now. And this just captures the beauty of that area before it gets destroyed. So yeah, definitely the most beautiful book that I've purchased so far this year. And finally, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? Sequels. I need to read my sequels. I've been doing so well recently with getting my like ongoing series list down. I was down to less than 10 that I hadn't caught up with yet, and then I started a bunch more. I think right now I'm only at 15, so it's not too bad, but I really want to get that down farther. So fingers crossed that I actually managed to do that in the next couple of months. But yeah, that is the mid-year check-in tag. Now, because I wasn't on YouTube for the first like chunk of the year, somebody did ask if I could like, oh good lord. Okay. I'm back. Got a phone call. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so because I wasn't on YouTube the first chunk of this year, somebody did ask if I could do like a wrap up of everything that I've read so far this year before I was on YouTube. So I figured this is a good time to do that. So I'm just going to leave like a bunch of graphics for everything that I read for the first half of the year with my star ratings at the end of this video. So that'll do it for this video. Let me know what your best book of the year so far has been, and also your worst. I want to hear that as well. Give me all the tea. But that'll do it for today. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys later on. Bye.